The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, December 7th, 2023, season 19, episode number 84. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and it is our job today to get you ready for Cowboys versus Eagles. Today we're going to focus in on the Eagles defense versus the Cowboys offense. We'll get some updates here at the beginning of the show. Patrick, let's start there first. Yesterday, I was out, but I did see the news that one Mike McCarthy had a little medical issue that was going on. What do we know at this point about him and his availability?
Yeah, a little bit of a medical scare happened in real time while we were doing the show yesterday. But Mike showed up to the facility yesterday to try to go through his normal rigmarole, and he didn't feel well, had some abdominal pain. He was going to try to tough through it. But, you know, his Knights of the Round Table, Dak, and his coordinators, they looked at him and said, you don't look well. Go get it checked out. And so he did, thankfully. But it was found out that he had acute appendicitis. So good that he caught that early.
Yeah,
because
you don't want it to burst.
Right, because it could be life-threatening if it burst. So he underwent surgery yesterday, and I'm told that he is released and he is recovering now, and the expectation remains that he will be available to coach against the Eagles. I spoke with Bones Fossil yesterday in the locker room just to kind of get a sense of if the Cowboys know if Mike is going to be up in the box or if he's going to be on the sideline, and Fossil doesn't know quite yet. But my speculation, pure speculation, is that Mike is going to be on the sideline. I think Mike wants to give that energy to his team and show them that he's there for them and do everything possible. So as long as there's no setback, knock on wood, because it is a medical situation, the expectation is he'll be on the field, or at least in some capacity present, so that he can coach against the Eagles.
You know, that's one where I hear you say he'd be on the sideline. I don't even know if that is that possible, because when you got
it's been done before
on the sideline, though, like that's a different thing. Like when you get cut, I don't know if you've ever had surgery. I've had surgery on my stomach before, and for like the next couple of weeks, I was kind of walking really slow and kind of hunched over a bit.
Unpleasant
To be on a sideline and standing
and
for
risking contact
3 hours and risking the fact that some play runs toward you and now you got to move quickly. I don't know if that's even possible, right?
Yeah, this is a doctor's decision. Yeah. This is going to be, Mike will probably try and tough it out and all that. I was told about Dan Campbell came one time to training camp with appendicitis, and then he practiced like a week later. So he was like, you feel better along the way. But this is totally a coach's decision. I was laughing because it reminded me of everybody talking yesterday. It was like when back in the day, it just reminded me of Dick Cheney at the White House when the president was out, vice president was out. Everything's cool. I'm here. I'm in control. I'm like
the fire behind you kind of mean.
Everybody's talking at like the White House. We're in good hands. Everybody's good. Country's on. Country's going to be fine. And it just reminded me of that. But it's almost as big as the White House, this place. But we'll see. We'll see if the doctors allow him. Mike will try and fight through it if he has
I'm sure he would.
It's going to be their call.
It's interesting because I did read yesterday North Turner supposedly had one years ago. He had some similar situation happen on a Friday, and he coached the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
What I didn't hear was whether he was in the booth or on the sideline, which to me that's a huge difference. But and I talked about that yesterday, Amber. That seems like a big stretch to be on a sideline a few days later.
Let's look at the positive.
Just make sure Cable is standing next to him to ensure no contact whatsoever.
Cable will make sure. And by the way, Cable is, what is his actual title? He's like
Director
the head of security, or
I think,
like
yeah.
he's always there.
Philly's version of Dom.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. He's
Brian calls him the Viking because he
Viking.
looks like a Viking. He's big and strong, and
he looked like he came right off the boat.
Yeah.
That'll make sure nobody gets to Mike if he's standing right in front of Mike. Yeah.
No, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, if he is, let's say, where he does have to be on the booth, in a booth, maybe, and just maybe, this helps just kind of see the game in a different perspective. And against Seattle, we were questioning some of those calls that happened later in the game and some of those decisions. Maybe by him being in a separate environment, you think differently. And I'm thinking this game is going to be a very close one. I don't see either team just completely blowing out the other one. So I think it's going to be a close one, and most likely than not, they might be. They might end up in a situation where those decisions will play a huge role in this game and the outcome. So I'm just saying, maybe it's all meant to happen for his health and for the health of the team and what happens this weekend. But I do think that even being on the booth, I see positive sides to it rather than negative.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to it. Obviously, there's a reason DQ is up in the booth, gives him the bird's eye view, real life, all 22 as it's happening. So, I mean, obviously that would, to Ambrose's point, it would give a different perspective for Mike as far as play calling, which is a huge benefit. The negative there would be that you don't have the immediate feedback and collaboration that you would have on the sideline with Dak Prescott and some of the receivers. So it's a little bit of a trade-off, but I just want Mike to do whatever is best for his health. Right. And that's the bottom line. And ultimately, it does sound like he will be available to coach at the game. What his location is between him and the doctors, but I'm sure they'll get it figured out.
That's an interesting thought, because I never have really noticed during games. I don't know if you guys have. I've seen some head coaches who call plays going back and talking to their players while they're on the sideline. I've never really noticed that with Mike. It always seems to me like he's up at the front, still engaged with the game. But I don't know, have you guys seen that much?
I think Scott Tolzien is the one guy. It's funny because Brian Schottenheimer stands at one end of the bench, and it's like he stands opposite of where Mike is. Okay. And then you've got Linda Wells, and that he's responsible for getting personnel in and out of the game.
Linda is.
Yeah. And so you'll see. So Mike is standing right there with him, but I usually see Scott Tolzien is the one that sits down with Dak and Cooper Rush when it comes to any type of work they need to go through and sequencing on their pads or things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. If he's not one that typically spends a whole lot of time with players on the sideline, maybe that's not an effect that you feel if he's in the press box as you do other times. Oh, gosh.
Taking antacids because of the games? Is that what we're doing?
That's thanks to my good old trusty Next Gen Stats website I'm looking at. Anyway, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see, number one, where is he? And then what's the difference? Is there really a difference based on what he typically does in a game? Is there really a difference? What I do know is this offense is really playing at a high level right now. I really don't want anything to change. Right. I don't want anything to change. But obviously this week, due to these circumstances, something's going to probably be a little bit different. And hopefully Mike will just be in a good headspace to be able to do what he normally does coming off of surgery. And he'll be, as you said, his medical situation will be taken 100%. Care of first and foremost. All right, let's talk about a roster move Cowboys made yesterday. Peyton Hendershot activated. He is now back to the 53-man roster. Sean McCune now takes his spot on IR. Brian, I see your eyebrows raised. How you feel about that?
They scraped the gum off of Brian.
Right. Tell you what, man,
how you feel about that?
I'm in a good. You talk about being in a good space right now. You know what? I think this more has to do with, and McEwen's dealing with an ankle injury right now that's going to cost him some time here for the next 4 weeks. But I think they're more confident with Hunter Lipke being that fullback role. I think it's a little bit easier for them to say if Hunter Lipke wasn't doing a decent enough job, then there's probably no reason to put McEwen down. You would probably say, okay, just fight through it, and we'll keep playing you, and you'll play special teams. But I think it's more about how they're happy with what Hunter Lipke's done, and it's allowed them to make this move. So I'm glad personally to have Hendershot back. I think he offers you another weapon. I know we haven't seen it all. The tight ends, I think, as a whole have been a pretty damn good group. There was a lot of questions about them coming into training camp, but they've more than exceeded my expectations for what they've done. So adding Hendershot back, I think that's a guy that we're going to be surprised. He might make a play or two that all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, we've missed that for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm totally okay with this move right now.
Yeah, same. And like I said, prior to them making the decision, I wanted to see Hendershot activated for a couple reasons. One, if you go back and look at his rookie film, yeah, he had some downs, but he had some ups. Just needs to get more control over his receptions. No tip drill interceptions, no drops. But when he makes a play, boy, is it a play. So he's flashed in a way that really made me excited to see the duo of him and Ferguson before the Schoonmaker pick was made. But then Ferguson kind of struggled starting the season, and then he's been gone ever since on IR. So I wanted to see him back on the field to see how he reacts to returning, how he reacts to it being the Jake Ferguson show with Schoonmaker getting involved. How do the Cowboys get Hendershot involved? What does that look like as far as that trio is concerned atop the tight end depth chart? But also you need to see what he can give you before you get into this offseason, because we're all excited about what John Stevens Jr. Could have been this season if not for the torn ACL. So we're all looking forward to seeing what he can be when he gets back on the field in OTAs and mini camp and training camp. And there's going to have to be a decision made months and months from now. And you just want to, as a GM and as Will McClay in that scouting department, you want to be able to have as much data and film in front of you as possible when that camp battle fires up. So for all of those reasons and more, and the more being, I believe Hendershot can be another weapon for Dak Prescott, this is just the smart move.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, even yesterday. I have my doubts. He's a player that had a great start of his NFL career. He did a great job last year in what he showed everybody. I'm a fan of his, and I wish him the best, and I hope that he can be someone that can contribute right away in this tough month of December. And to me, it's more of the timing of how things are playing out, because even prior to the injury, he wasn't having a good year. He didn't have a good training camp. Even the games that he was there, it was not good. So I think it was more on the mental side of things. Hopefully he's in a better headspace and going into this and knowing that the Cowboys are opening a spot for him, which should make him feel better, and giving, that they're still putting trust in him and his game. So bunch of doubts on my end, but I am rooting for him, and I do really like him a lot, and I hope he's able to translate good things into the field.
I do really hope that you make a good point, Amber, as far as his mental headspace. I really hope that he's looking at it in that capacity, as far as being thankful for the opportunity and willing to step in and make some plays, versus thinking to himself, oh, it took them 21 days and they almost went to the buzzer with this. Like, don't look at it the latter. Look at it the former. You're on the field, go out there and make some plays and make them right, prove them right, because this is the team that gave you a chance as an undrafted free agent. This is the team that gave you the reps last year so that you could flash. And so don't look at it as, oh, it took them 21 days. Are they unsure? No. Go out there and handle your business.
Yeah, I just want to real quickly say before we go to break, you got to give a lot of credit to Lunda Wells and what he's done with this tight end group.
100%.
Like, you talked about this group in this room. Yeah. Like, this group, you're talking about guys that he's developed. Like Dalton Schultz, we all sat on this show. Probably you over on Talking Cowboys at the time, and we're like, yeah, I think the Dalton Schultz show is over. And this was like year 2 of his career. Like we were like he's never going to develop. And you saw him develop and turn into a really, really good player for the Cowboys. And now you're looking at a guy like Jake Ferguson in his second year, who is producing well enough to where I think he's going to be a part of the conversation for a Pro Bowl. Like, he's playing at that level. And you start thinking about that and what Hendershot was able to do as a rookie last year, and then what we saw from John Stevens this year at training camp. Like, this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to tight end, and he has a career before the Cowboys where he had a lot of production there as well with the Giants. So I got to give him a little love. Lunda knows what he's doing.
Some people say he's actually a better offensive line coach.
Really?
Yeah. That he's that type of coach.
I would trust it.
That if you plugged him in as an offensive line coach, he would be just as productive.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's doing a great job. And with coaches, you always got to look at the results and look at the results over time. his results over time look pretty darn good.
Yeah, Lunda's been phenomenal, and I love the relationship between Lunda and the scouting department, because it's, as well as Lunda is developing this talent, and he is most certainly doing that, the collaboration that leads to just them spotting the right kind of talent and the right fits for this situation. Because I know there was some, not me because I was on the Fergie train last year, but there were some that were wondering, okay, well, with Dalton Schultz, you lose him, you're losing over 800 yards of production, you're losing Dak Prescott's statistically his number one target. What does that look like? Okay, well, you look at Lunda Wells and he says, Jake, you're up. And then he says, Schoolmaker, we can develop you while Jake is, so Jake's hit another level. I think last game he tied Jason Witten for the most receiving touchdowns through the first couple of seasons. So when you're in that conversation this early, it's good stuff.
And actually, that's another reason why I'm a big believer that give Schoonmaker time.
Yes.
It's going to work out. Trust me, because I have faith in Lunda. Lunda knows what he's doing.
That train by myself.
They're gonna, that's fine. I'm just saying, I trust Lunda on this one. He'll get it right. He'll get him to a point where he needs to be. And I think in a year or two, we'll look back and be like, yeah, he was just growing pains.
And thanks to Jake,
fine.
He has time to develop because he didn't have to come in, kind of like Mozzie Smith didn't have to come in and immediately be that guy because of Jonathan Hankins, Osa, Chauncey. Same with Schoonmaker. Doesn't have to come in and be the definitive heir to Schultz because Jake Ferguson, he's wearing that crown, and I think he's going to keep wearing that crown.
All right, we're going to take our first break, come back. We'll talk about the Philadelphia defense versus the Cowboys offense. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't-stop-banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
All right, it's that time of year. It's NFL Fan of the Year time. Sean Polite is your 2023 Cowboys Fan of the Year, and now he needs your help. Vote for Sean to be given the ultimate title of NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan, by casting your vote at NFL.com/fan of the year. All you Eagle fans, get out there and vote for Sean. He's your guy.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. This segment brought to you by Blockchain.com. All right, let's talk about the Philadelphia defense versus the Cowboys offense. Okay, I'm going to start with a bigger picture question, Brian.
Yeah.
If you had to identify one thing, that one problem that the Philadelphia defense posed for the Cowboys offense when they met earlier this season, what would you identify that to be, and has that area improved for Dallas since that time?
I was going to lead this thing off by saying this game is going to come down to how well Terrence Steele plays at right tackle. And whether it's Hassan Reddick or it's Sweat or it's any number of Brandon Graham, anybody that they put over on that side that's going to rush him. It's offensive linemen. You've heard me say this a bunch. They play 70 plays. If they have 3 bad plays, it's usually a really good game. If they have 6 bad plays, it's probably a pretty bad game. And Terrence Steele had his moments where he was actually pretty good. Watching the tape last night again, they got to figure out a way to maybe help him. And now that comes at a price. The price is, do you get in his way and mess him up when he's blocking? There's a lot of these offensive tackles that don't like help on the outside because backs, tight ends, people get in the way of your technique. And so you have to be very mindful of, can your offensive tackle handle somebody that's helping him? You could chip guys. You can. I think the way the Cowboys can do it in this game is they can try and widen Reddick. And I mean widen is you make him play. You make him wider in space. Mm-hmm. When you put a man to his side, he's going to play on the outside shoulder. So if that would how I would do it. I would go back to the plan. Several years ago, they played Joey Bosa in a game. Actually, it was Terrence Steele's first start, and there were times where they didn't always allow Steele to block one-on-one. And we're probably past all that, but I would just make sure. I would keep Reddick as wide as possible. Now,
but you don't think he's improved since they played the Eagles?
Oh, he's improved, but I'm not going to take another chance. I'm not going to. He was. I've seen him play very, very well, but that right tackle spot wrecked your game last time you played.
His speed is a problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. And so, you can improve, but you also got to make sure that you don't let it happen again. What happened the first time that you played him in Week 9. Now, I'll say this though too. Last week I saw Reddick against the 49ers shift to the other side. So for some reason they were trying to run him not as the left end but as the right end in this game and against Trent Williams, which I really didn't understand. But it might have been because the 49ers were able to run the ball going to their left. They had the Eagles had a problem with the toss sweep perimeter plays on the outside. So they might have put Reddick over there to try and maybe keep people from the 49ers running the football at him to that side. But there's going to be a game going on here. They can't let whoever's playing left end just go after Steele in this football game. And I trust Steele, but I do want to give him some help in certain situations. It doesn't have to be all the time, but I just want to make sure that we're covered on that right side.
How much has the loss of Dean and Cunningham, their linebackers, hurt them? And in what ways? How has it manifested itself, them being?
Well, I'll tell you what. When you look at Dean and Cunningham, both they both were playing okay.
Yeah.
Before in Week 9, they were okay. Going back and looking at my notes, teams have had the ability to throw the ball on these guys when they were in coverage. There was a time where these guys had been targeted quite a bit, and all of a sudden it's 11 for 11, 25 of 32. I mean, they'd had struggles in some areas where, and now they signed Shaq Leonard to play. It's created a problem. Nicholas Morrow can't play, and then Christian Elias was their starter last week against the 49ers. They cut him Wednesday to make room for Shaq Leonard. That just shows you a guy who was actually more productive. Morrow, I thought, was the worst player on the field defensively for the Eagles. Mm-hmm. He's likely going to start. Now they think that they might get Cunningham back in this game. Okay. They think he's dealing with a hamstring injury. But if he doesn't answer the bell, then you're going to see Morrow and you're going to see Leonard playing probably the majority of the linebacker in this football game.
If you were having to make that decision for the offense, for the Cowboys offense, how do you best exploit what they're doing at linebacker?
Well, the problem is that, the thing is I know watching Shaq Leonard play, I know what he could do. He's not going to get fooled. Morrow, you can absolutely fool. You can get him to go one way and then take the ball back the other. You can manipulate him. Shaq Leonard doesn't let you manipulate him like that.
Yeah, he's too much of a veteran for that.
He's not going to let you. He's not going to look at motion, and that's what San Francisco does. They've taken good linebackers and made them look foolish in space. By the way, with their orbit motions, that's the motion that goes around and then all the way around. They do things to kind of try and mess with you. If Morrow's playing, I'm doing everything in my power to make him see the wrong things. Because he'll make a mistake. and he'll go the wrong way, and then all of a sudden he'll leave a vacant area there. I don't know with Leonard if he would do that, but and having Cunningham back would help them, but they are clearly in trouble at one of the linebacker spots with Morrow playing.
Yeah, I'd say make these linebackers cover, and Shaq Leonard. He has to ramp up. We'll see if he even takes the field, and if he does take the field, maybe a handful of snaps, whatever the case may be. Shaq Leonard he excels at run defense, not so much in coverage though. Yeah. And then behind this linebacker core, which Brian will get to momentarily, they have a secondary that struggles. So if you're talking about pressing the linebacker core, this is a game where you revert back to setting up the run by virtue of the pass. Go out and pass, and first stretch them horizontally. That could be on bubbles and those types of screens. Even if it's a handoff, but if it's like a CeeDee Lamb end around or Kevontae Turpin end around, make those linebackers play sideline to sideline, and just stretch them out. And that's what you do. And over the course of a game, they get more and more fatigued, and then the secondary can't really back them up as far as coverage is concerned. So I think that's how you attack this linebacker core. They're going to be again. This is the same Eagles defense. Although personnel has changed, their defensive line is really good against stopping the run. And the linebackers aren't poor at stopping the run, and then Shaq Leonard is actually good at stopping the run. But as far as coverage is concerned, that's a liability for the Eagles linebackers.
They were really good the first two series of the game. The Eagles came out on defense, and they looked like they had a good idea of how they were needed to play and get that done. They got the 49ers off the field the first couple. And then all of a sudden you get a Brandon Ayuk play, you get a Christian McCaffrey play, and now all of a sudden they got them on their heels. They can't figure things out, and now all the motion and things are making it even worse. But the first two series of the game, you were thinking like, okay, the Eagles have got this thing they're on a good path right now. And then things just really, really fell apart for them because, again, they lose, when we talk about their secondary, they lose coverage. Their guys in the secondary lose coverage. They lose men. Like I say, Morrow, the linebacker, loses his guy. Next thing you know, McCaffrey's running wide open, and it's a huge play down the sidelines. They've had their problems when teams have been able, and when their edges haven't gotten home, because the middle of their defense is really more about power and strength and being bullies than it is pass rushers. If you can control guys pushing on you and handle the edges, their defense is in trouble, because if they don't get the pressure, then their secondary has been just, teams have feasted on them, and a lot of it has to do with some of their best players. Darius Slay hasn't played to the level he has been in the past, and then James Bradbury has been awful in a lot of situations, and so there's a lot of separation. There's guys that are just open, and they've dealt with some injuries. They haven't figured out the nickel. Eli Ricks, anytime you see 39 on the field, the ball needs to go to his direction. Anytime.
Playing a target on him, that's your target.
I'm just saying that, and I have a feeling
he ain't wrong.
I have a feeling they're going to try and get Darius Slay on Lamb as much as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take that matchup.
Yeah, if that's the case.
That's their best matchup.
No, that is their best matchup. And if that's the case, then now you need to wear them out with your other guys.
Will they follow? Would he follow him into the slot?
I don't think he will follow him into the slot.
Because here's the other thing. I noticed this. I was looking at some numbers. This season so far, CeeDee Lamb leads the NFL in receiving yards and touchdowns from the slot.
Yeah.
And Philly, on the other hand, has allowed the most yards from the slot with 1,359 yards. It's 158 more yards than any other team from the slot. My thought is, if you're trying to match him up, guess what? I'm going to put him in the slot as much as possible, especially if you're telling me this guy at 39 is going to be the one that's going to be lined up across from him.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's going to be a slot day for CeeDee Lamb, and let's go. You know,
they've really struggled, and their safety, Reed Blankenship, they think he's a good player. He's got 2 interceptions at safety, but he's given up the second most touchdowns. So now this is game for Ferguson. How do they match up with him? Is Blankenship going to be in coverage with him? I think you got several options. You need to figure out the right tackle spot, help him as much as you can, and then Dak, let him go to work on this secondary, because these receivers can definitely get open against these guys.
And the good news for the Cowboys is it's often said that it's a copycat league, but just because someone shows you the blueprint doesn't mean that you have the same tools in your toolbox to be able to build what they built. But the Cowboys, and seeing what the blueprint was from the 49ers versus Philadelphia, the Cowboys have that
Buffalo too.
Yeah, the Cowboys have those horses on offense as well, and now they've really leaned into that pre-snap motion, as we've talked about, because the last 2 weeks they've had 2 weeks of consecutive season highs in pre-snap motion, over 70% both times. So Brian pointed this out, very astute. The San Francisco 49ers, they were able to use Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk to get them off balance, and then it was just an onslaught of pre-snap motion. Yeah. Cowboys can and will do the exact same thing. So credit to them for having that leverage against a Philadelphia defense that just automatically doesn't cover well, and then now you start moving people around and making them think and making them guess. That just makes it more difficult for them. Also a secondary in Philly, roughly 3,300 passing yards allowed. We talked about this yesterday. 27 touchdowns allowed. I mean, they're league worst in one of those categories, behind only the Washington Commanders defense, and they're tied with the Commanders defense for league worst in another one of those categories. And roughly 1,400 yards are basically on yak. So if you can get the ball in the playmakers' hands, you can get this Philadelphia defense on their heels and really just reeling over the course of 4 quarters.
Yeah, this is it was just so clear watching them play. That's the struggles that they have, and you're thinking like, man, this is supposed to be a really good defense, and they're really not. I mean, they struggle in a lot of areas.
The one thing they can do, they can stop the run and they can rush your passer. Yeah. Outside of that,
behind that is bad.
Yeah.
They're 4th worst in the NFL in passer rating allowed at just under 99. Their secondary is just a meal to be had.
When you go back, I remember going back and watching the game. There's things you forget. Dak did a great job, even when the pass rush got home, of escaping and then finding Lamb along the sidelines, finding Ferguson wide open. I mean, when Dak has been able to escape, man, he has made some really, really good throws against these guys. And, hopefully he won't have to do a lot of escaping. Hopefully a lot of his stuff will be from the pocket, that they got that thing taken care of, and he can work from there.
And Derek, you talk about how can you apply pressure and stress out those linebackers. Dak in his legs. Yeah. Dak in his legs.
He ran in the game last time.
Absolutely. If Dak injects that as another option for the Cowboys, that's something else the linebackers have to worry about. And they're just not designed in Philadelphia to handle all of those particular weapons and threats. So Cowboys offense is firing on all cylinders for a reason.
All right, let's take our final break. We will come back. And I have a question for you guys about Michael Gallup. I started looking at some of his snap counts. It's declined quite a bit here as the season is worn on. I want to talk to you a little bit about that. We'll do it when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
'Tis the season for youth football and dance camps presented by Invisalign. Don't miss your chance to learn from the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and former NFL players at AT&T Stadium December 22nd and 23rd. Celebrate the holidays with the Cowboys. Register today at dallascowboys.com/camps.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. I had a question for you guys. I was looking at Michael Gallup's snap counts over the season. Check this out. In weeks 1 through 6, he was averaging 44.7 snaps per game. That's second on the team behind CeeDee Lamb. Cooks was a little bit under him at 44, so they were about equal at that time. Since then, starting week 8 through 13, that would be after the bye through the last game, he's only been averaging 30 snaps per game.
Yeah.
Down about 14 snaps per game. That has him third on the team, tied with Jalen Tolbert. And Cooks is up a little bit to 49.3. Essentially, everybody below him has increased their number of snaps, including Brooks. All of them have increased their number of snaps per game, and Gallup has dropped pretty significantly. Do you think that's more about the fact that they want to get more guys involved, or do you think that's more about the fact they were not happy necessarily with what they're getting from Gallup?
I think you could argue that it was a combination of the two. But outside of Gallup lighting the field on fire like CeeDee Lamb was doing, the inevitable plan was to get Jalen Tolbert involved more, if no one else, to get Kevontae Turpin involved more, if no one else. So because the Cowboys knew going into this season they were going to want to get Turpin involved more, they were going to have to get Cooks his looks, they were going to have to get Jalen Tolbert his looks. That means it was inevitable that you would see a downturn in Michael Gallup's snap count. And then the question was simply, what would Gallup do with the opportunities he was given? And it's been an up and down affair, more up lately than down. So kudos to him for kind of being resilient in that aspect. But but when they were the down moments, then of course that then shifts more reps over to guys like Turpin, who's been producing, Tolbert, who's coming through in critical situations like the 17-yard reception. That's helping out your quarterback. That's going to earn you more reps going forward. So I wouldn't put too much stock in them having any thoughts of, at the moment, being over, quote unquote, Michael Gallup, as much as it is because he's started playing well. He's kind of on a consistent trend of, he's not lighting the field on fire, but he's doing what he needs to do when the ball comes his way, critical possession receptions and things like that. But when you're trying to get Tolbert involved and you got to keep Turpin involved because he's earned that, something's got to give.
Yeah, you do have a lot of different weapons that you want to keep active. Yeah, for sure. That you do want to keep active and give them something. You don't so you can have different looks to show at different times depending who you're playing. But with Gallup, I'll be honest, like sometimes he has become forgettable. And that's not something good. And the times that I do remember, and we've talked about it, like he has those moments that, okay, he's playing bad, not catching the ball, not doing much, and then all of a sudden he makes a really good play. You're like, okay, yes, that's why.
There he is.
There we go. There we go.
Here we go.
But yeah, here we go. But it doesn't happen very often, and I do agree with him improving, but it's just not enough when you do have other guys that are making bigger plays. I think they've given him plenty of chances, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I do see the reasoning in the decline, because even I keep forgetting that game where it seemed like they kept forcing the ball on him.
Los Angeles Chargers.
Against the Chargers, where it just seemed forced. And I was like, okay, why? Like, sometimes a single player has a bad game, and it's okay. It happens to everybody. But just like, you can look
don't do that.
the other way and keep attacking somebody else. So it's I don't know. I saw it coming eventually, but at the same time, I'm glad that there are a lot more guys being involved and finding success in that. And with Michael Gallup being able to still have some involvement in there as well.
Yeah, he threw a really good block on the 4th and 1
Yes,
play the other day that it sprung Pollard to get the first down. Yeah. And so he hasn't lost interest in trying to do when he's on the field.
Which is consistent with his personality.
Yeah, which is very consistent with his personality.
He's just getting it done.
Tolbert, I think that, he's starting to show some things with his ability to be on the field, to block as well, his route running. This is a difficult offense, I believe, for Michael Gallup because I don't think he's a great route runner. And I think he struggles to get off the line. They have these now, the way the offense is, it's really relying on combinations of receivers running routes and working with tight ends. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, though, you get Cooks, Lamb, and Ferguson all together to run a route. It's 2 outs and a seam, and now it's a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And so you're using different combinations of receivers and the tight ends to create separation for each other. And I think it's been a little bit of a problem for Gallup when he's part of the combination group. Maybe his route isn't as good. Maybe it is not as at depth. Maybe it's not finishing. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that you kind of deal with. And they're saying, well, if we're going to attack people, we want to run this route combination. Okay, we got to go with these guys that we know can get it done. And I think that's where it's kind of. But to his credit, and I mentioned it before, he hasn't lost interest
at all. Mm-hmm.
He's still trying to do anything that they ask him to do, and that's really where you're at. And that's a decision that's probably going to have to be made at the end of the season, especially with the emergence of Cooks and then Tolbert and even Brooks playing some too.
Yeah.
That's going to be a question you're going to have to answer at the end of the year.
But I see Tolbert kind of the same way as Gallup sometimes, as far as like the consistency aspect of it, where Tolbert, he will have some really good plays, but then all of a sudden he doesn't. Right. So it's just, I see them kind of both having the same as far as consistency, because they play very differently. But as far as results and all that, I think the fact that Tolbert is the younger guy, the newer guy that they did draft and brought in, and I think that kind of gives them more. That gives them more reason as to why keep giving him more playing time.
I will say this, and this is not a knock on anyone, but if given the opportunity, I am a firm believer that Brooks will be every bit as good as any of those receivers that are not the top 2 receivers on this roster right now. I think that guy, watching him in training camp, watching the opportunities he's had with the Cowboys.
Played that way in South Carolina.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, if the ball's in his area, he's going to catch it. He's coming down with it, and he makes the play. I really am excited about what can be expected from him in the future, and I do think that that's going to shake up that part of the roster. When you start looking at these wide receivers, they better be aware Jalen Brooks, he's a significant player. He's going to be a player in this league.
And for him to be a rookie, he's not deer in the headlights.
No, not at all.
That game that Turpin was inactive and Brooks was brought up, he went out there and had like 3 critical receptions and like 33 yards, and and they kept him active the next week. So to your point, I mean, when he's thrown on center stage, all he sees is ball. All he sees is football. He's not. His knees aren't shaking. I mean, he's out there to play.
He's a player.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to wrap this thing up, let you know who we think is going to win this game and what we think the score is going to be. Till then, for Patrick Walker, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I am Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!